As Eastern Europe revolted against communist control, right, the Soviet Union's economy itself started to falter. By the 1980s, the Soviet Union faced crisis. The command economy was inefficient. Production goals with little regard for wants, needs for the market. And a new leader arises. His name is Mikhail Gorbachev. He came to power and saw a need for change. He proposed two radical concepts. The first is glasnost. Glasnost means openness, which was the willingness to discuss Soviet problems openly. No longer would these problems be hidden by the government. And the second was perestroika, or restructuring, which was a reform of the Soviets' economic and political system into a more capitalist, mixed economy. Besides domestic changes in the Soviet Union, Gorbachev aggressively pushed for control agreements with the United States of nuclear weapons. He also reduced central planning of the Soviet economy and introduced some free market mechanisms. Gorbachev knew the Soviet Union could not afford to prop up communist governments of Eastern Europe, and he began to pull Soviet troops out of the region and urged local leaders to adopt reforms, reverse decades of Soviet policies and brutality in Eastern Europe. And this will lead to revolutions. We saw solidarity in Poland. We'll also see that Czechoslovakia had what was known as the Velvet Revolution, so-called because it was peaceful, and they pushed the communists out of power. Only bloodshed in Romania, where some military forces remained loyal to the communist dictator. East Germany was the most drastic. The Berlin Wall was opened in November 1989 and pulled down. And once it was pulled down, the strong symbol of Soviet repression and the Cold War finally fell. In less than a year, East and West Germany were reunified as a single nation for the first time since World War II. With the fall of Eastern Europe from the Soviet Union, with economic issues, the Soviet Union collapses into 15 separate republics. Some had been independent nations before World War II and long wanted freedom. Lithuania declared independence, but not clear if Soviets had will and power to stop the movements. In 1991, Gorbachev falls and another leader rises, Boris Yeltsin, and Yeltsin favored more radical changes than Gorbachev. He did not want to see the hardliners take over the Soviet Union and send the world back into the Cold War. This marked the end of the Soviet Union. The 12 republics united in the loose confederations, the commonwealths of independent states. The mighty Soviet Union, once one of the two world superpowers, no longer existed, and the Cold War was finally over after 40 years of tension and conflict. Here is a map showing you the breakup of the Soviet Union into 12 independent nations. And the Soviet Union becomes Russia. With the fall of the Soviet Union and the communists inside Russia, rapid economic changes happened to function like a capitalist system. They began to allow private ownerships of business and lands. However, this will have a mixed result inside Europe. Inside Russia, some were good, some was bad, but the Russian economy as a whole continues to struggle. With this mixed result, you get some entrepreneurs prospered, making them very, very rich. Prices rose sharply. By the early 2000s, Russia rebounded somewhat from economic crisis led by its oil production, but the path from communism to capitalism was not easy inside Russia.